Okay, let's dive in. We're looking today at a really significant piece of EU legislation, the EU Deforestation Regulation, or EUDR. That's Regulation 17152023 for anyone keeping score.
Yeah, and the aim, on the surface at least, seems pretty clear. It's about the EU trying to cut down its impact on global deforestation and forest degradation, specifically for certain goods coming into or even leaving the EU market.
Exactly. But getting there, that's where it gets complex. The core mechanism is this, well, quite demanding set of due diligence obligations placed on companies all along the supply chain. We've sifted through some material explaining what this actually means in practice.
And that's our mission for this deep dive, right? To sort of break down the key things companies need to do, look at the hurdles, but also maybe some upsides, and definitely cover the consequences if they don't comply, all based on what the sources are telling us.
So let's start at the heart of it. What's the absolute baseline requirement for companies under this EUDR?
Okay, so fundamentally, companies have to show their products are deforestation-free, which means proving the stuff didn't come from land that was deforested after December 31st, 2020. That's the cutoff.
Ah, okay. A specific date.
Yes, and it's not just about deforestation. The sources really stress this. The products also have to comply with the relevant laws of the country where the raw materials actually came from. Proving both those things, that's the core of the due diligence task.
And proving it isn't just paperwork, is it? I understand it gets very specific, down to the actual location.
It really does. And this is, I think, one of the most fascinating parts based on the material. Raw materials need to be geo-referenced. Like you need the precise GPS coordinates for where your coffee, your cocoa, your timber, whatever it is, was actually grown or harvested.
Okay, coordinates. Now, why is that so critical? I mean, why not just rely on certifications or documentation? This sounds much more intense.
Because those coordinates allow for independent verification using satellite imagery. It moves things away from documents, which, could potentially be fudged, towards objective, verifiable data.
Ah, satellites. Okay.
Yeah. Authorities, even companies themselves, can use Earth observation data to check the history of that specific plot of land. Did deforestation happen there after the cutoff date? It's a tech-driven shift to make illegal deforestation much harder to hide. Visible from space, essentially.
So, linking the physical product right back to a verifiable piece of land using technology. Got it. And companies can't just wait to be checked, they need to be proactive.
Precisely. The regulation mandates what's called a risk assessment system.
Right.
Companies aren't just waiting for an audit. They have to actively figure out and mitigate any risks of noncompliance before those goods even hit the EU market.
So pushing the responsibility way back up the chain.
Definitely. It's a proactive stance they need to take.
Now, the source material we looked at describes the EDR as both a challenge and an opportunity. That seems like a really important point.
It absolutely is. The challenge part is pretty obvious, especially with complex global supply chains. Getting that reliable traceability, those precise geolocation details from potentially thousands of smallholders all the way to the EU, that's a massive operational hurdle.
I can imagine.
But the opportunity side is that this pressure forces companies to build, well, frankly, better supply chains.
Yeah.
More transparent, more resilient, and ultimately more sustainable ones. It's kind of a catalyst for innovation in how companies manage data and monitor their sourcing.
Okay, so a tough push, but maybe a positive one in the long run for sustainability. But what if companies don't manage it? If they fail on this due diligence, what happens then?
Well, enforcement falls to the national authorities in each EU member state. They'll be doing checks, periodic inspections, and the sources highlight that the penalties for noncompliance can be really significant.
How significant are we talking?
We're talking potentially hefty fines. The figure mentioned is up to 4% of a company's total annual turnover within the EU.
4%. Okay, for a big multinational, that's not trivial. That could be enormous.
Exactly. It's a figure designed to get boardroom attention, to make compliance a very serious financial issue, not just a reputational one.
And it's probably worth mentioning, as our source material does, that this is based on the author's interpretation. For the absolute final word and latest updates, companies really need to consult the official EU guidelines themselves.
Absolutely. Essential disclaimer. Things evolve.
So, wrapping this up then, the EUDR puts a huge amount of responsibility squarely on companies. They need traceability, they need risk assessment, they need proof, often high-tech proof like geospatial data that their products are clean.
Right. And failure means facing potentially crippling fines. It's a major, major challenge. operationally and financially.
But, as you said, it's also undeniably pushing towards greater transparency and sustainability in how global companies source their materials.
That seems to be the dual reality of it, yes.
Challenge and push. Which leaves us, and you listening, with a final thought. Think about the ripple effect. When a market as big as the EU imposes rules like this, impacting goods both coming in and going out, what does that do globally? Could this actually force changes in land use and supply chain practices far beyond Europe's borders? What might this mean for the future of trade and how we link it to environmental standards worldwide? Something to chew on.